The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, residents of Easton, friends and neighbors. This is Bill Ames, the co-host of the Film Connection. We like to bring residents of Easton and neighboring towns, and occasionally we do a Zoom to a far-off place, who are involved in the creation of media, have a career somewhere, and have started out perhaps in the Hockomock Film Festival, which is the homegrown issue here. But we've been on the air since 2002, thanks primarily to the young lady next to me, Priscilla Almquist Olsen, who is our co-host. So to start things off, I'll toss it over to you, Priscilla. So welcome, everybody.
I like that young comment. Seriously, we are today so privileged to have one of the youngest producer-directors in the film business, who has produced his first documentary, and he produced it in India with a stand-up comic named Manjeet Sakra. Manjeet Sakna. And Manjeet has been touring the States with Mike, premiering this documentary all over the place. And we had a privilege, Bill and I, to see the premiere at the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline, Massachusetts, last month in May. So today is June 12th, 2025. And we are still thinking about that movie, and all it took to produce and direct it. It's just a masterpiece of ingenuity, and we are so proud of you, Mike. You have been a winner in the Hockomock Film Festival here in Easton 4 years in a row when you were in high school at Canton High, and under the direction of Ed McDonough.
Legendary.
Legendary. Thank you, Bill. Yes, a legendary guy who's produced so many guys and gals who have gone on to careers in the film industry. So, Mike, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Okay.
Well,
so, tell us a little bit about, because you've been on before, you've talked a little bit about some of the ups and downs. What about editing the film? We haven't heard about that. How did that go?
So that was a big undertaking. My first draft of the film was 3.5 hours long. So I had to figure out how to cut that down. A lot of the interviews and his stand-up had been recorded before I came onto the project. So I had to sift through a ton of footage. We had to select which jokes we're gonna use, because half of it, or maybe 40%, is his stand-up content and stand-up material. So to figure out which jokes were relevant to use and how we weave that in with the interviews of his family and friends and the larger narrative of, caste in India. Comedy is a really young art form there. So to weave all of these things together was quite difficult, I will say. But through these screenings that we've done across the US, India, and Europe, each iteration of the film we brought to the new screening, and then we would watch the audience reaction. We'd get a chance to see it with the audience and see what was working, what wasn't working. Maybe a joke we thought was funny fell flat for the audience, and then we would tweak it to see, okay, how can we still make that land, or just cut it all together if it wasn't working out entirely.
Well, tell us about the F-bombs that were sprinkled throughout. That must have been something you had to think about.
Yeah. So Manjeet learned English largely through hip hop and rap. So that's one of the ways we connected first. Both of our favorite artists is J. Cole, who's a greatest rapper of our generation. And he learned a lot of English through rap, which has a lot of swearing in it. Yeah. So he drops it significantly. And the film was early in his English learning career. So the stand-up you saw was only a year into him knowing English. Yeah. So those are a lot of filler words that he uses. He just knows that he has those cuss words and he can just toss them in.
Just a little bit of a trigger.
Yeah.
Because Well, it was very effective, I thought, and just getting over to the premiere at the Coolidge Corner, if we could go for a minute. I was very impressed with the size of the crowd. You had a lot of family members there too.
I did. Yeah, my family came from all over the place. I was like beyond touched that so many people that I care about and love were able to make it out. It was a sold out house, packed auditorium.
Yeah, we were lucky to get into that, Priscilla. So it was very, very interesting. And the Coolidge Corner, for those at home who haven't been there, is pretty impressive in terms of the facilities. And people in my generation, when we were younger, have all been there, but it was some big old drafty theater. Now it's just the opposite. There's 2 or 3 screens and with rooms, and there's a concession stand, and it's very. I highly recommend getting on the E list if you like movies, independent film. That's the newsletter to get on, because I was really impressed with the selection of films that were coming in the future. So anyhow, so were you nervous, or
yeah,
another day at the office, or?
No, I was nervous. This was our final screening of I think 12 that we did, all over the place. So, but what made this one particularly nervous for me is this was mine that I was throwing. So I was hosting this. I rented out the theater myself to, this was for my own community. Everywhere else we were screening it was largely Manjeet focused, as it should be. It's his life story and whatnot. But being able to bring it back to Boston and actually show my own family and community what I had been working on was immense pressure, because I wanted it to go so well. But
so your mother liked it and your sisters liked it, right?
Yes, they loved it. They came to India and watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my whole family minus one brother came out to Bangalore, India, in January. They stayed out there.
That's a perfect excuse for a trip to India. That's
oh
for
yeah,
sure.
oh
so,
yeah.
Yeah, it must have been easy to sell.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. We had to force my youngest brother to go because he didn't want to, but by the end of the trip, he was having more fun than anybody else there.
Yeah, I've never been to India. People dress very colorfully there.
Yes.
They're not all dark shades like we do here.
Yes,
And,
I love it.
So it's nice. So Ed McDonough was there.
Yes.
As well. I didn't get a chance to say hello to him. But
and at the end of this show, we're going to show some clips from that premiere, which I videoed. Not just an interview with Mike, but also with Ed McDonough, with Mother and Dad and Grandpa. And on that night when everybody was just so energized and happy. So tell us, what has been the response? We know what the response was in Brookline. Bill and I were there. It was just wonderful. And by the way, you had a lot of friends from high school there too, and they were all so happy and talked about your movie with such enthusiasm. But what about the response that you got elsewhere? So where did you travel? What were the cities that you had the privilege to show your film?
Yeah, so we started off, the very first screening we did, I wasn't able to attend. It was in Chennai, India. And that was like 1 month after they brought me onto the project. So I had to cut and edit like an hour and a half film horribly, okay? By my standards, the first iteration of the film was trash. But the audience received it really well.
Why was it trash? The jump cuts or
it was
weren't good?
It just wasn't, it didn't flow the way that I wanted it to. It wasn't like snappy. A lot of times I felt like there was dead time, or like someone's interview was maybe going on for too long in one segment. It just didn't have the snappiness. One of the things we tried to do with this, especially in the age of like TikTok, of the shorter attention spans, is to keep it pushing, keep things happening through the film. So the first iteration was very, very rough, but the audience received it fairly well, which made us feel good.
I love the interviews with his father.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But those lingered. You didn't jump cut him away too quickly.
No, definitely not. Yeah, so the pacing is really important. I think if you can pace it well, then you can have instances where somebody is given like multiple minutes to talk. As long as it fits into the story and you're being brought along by that narrative.
It's hard to wrap I find it hard, Priscilla, to wrap my mind around the fact that forgive me, the father was an untouchable.
Yeah.
He seemed very educated and delightful guy. I mean,
yeah.
It's just by our Western standards, it's hard to wrap your mind around. But I guess when you go into the slums, that's where the real untouchables are, probably.
Yeah, it's difficult because there's not actually any difference between any of the casts. You know what I mean? From like a base standard human perspective. A lot of it is very ingrained. Like they're restricted from schools and education. The poverty keeps them out of schools. So his dad is brilliant. He's very smart, very intelligent, but uneducated. So like less like reading, writing capabilities, that kind of thing. But not to say he's more intelligent probably than somebody who has a doctorate and something.
Well, clearly, I mean, just the way he spoke, it was very thoughtful and
So how does he project jokes which point out and expose this bias? How does he do that?
So he does it in a way, so most of his audience is upper caste. So he's speaking to the like oppressive community. And the way that he goes, like, he tells the jokes and then before the audience can even laugh, he's already laughing at them because he sees how uncomfortable they are. And there's that, like, he's pointing out a lot of the hypocrisies in the society which they can relate to and laugh about. And he never makes it targeted, like he's talking down to them or, he's saying you're a horrible person for being who you are. But he points out certain, flaws in society that they may not have thought about being from their perspective. So one of his points he makes talking about equal pay is that anywhere there's the conversation of equal pay, it's in a place where all the ACs are working. And it's never about like his community working out in the sun. Nobody's concerned about them. It's very much a upper class equal pay to have it up there, even though the real inequality, the biggest inequality is through the caste system, which also affects women in that respect. So obviously it's not funny when I'm saying it. His art and his craft is the way to make people laugh about something like that.
yeah.
So he was prevented from higher education. How much education did he have?
No, so now they have reservation, like affirmative action, essentially over there, where schools have to have a certain number of Dalits or untouchable group in school. So he's actually a trained pharmacist. That's what his first job was. He does have a college education. So he used that to, build himself up. And he's lucky that he had his family to help, support him through that. A lot of people don't get the same opportunities, or they'll have to drop out to work to support the family and stuff. So, yeah.
So are there scholarships for members of the untouchable class?
Yeah, there are.
So I was interested in I can't remember how it ended, but I was very impressed with sort of the character arc at the end. It was very sort of moving. Why was that? Why was that? I can't remember why.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah,
So,
but I was touched by it, but I can't recall.
yeah, that's where you see him writing backstage his jokes, and you see him reflecting on where he's come from, and that's when we have all these flashbacks to, his family, people in his community, where he's coming from.
That must have been it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, one of my favorite things that we did in the film, especially from like a perspective for the Indian audience living in the cities that might not have like knowledge of the rural life, especially the rural Dalit life. But we will take you through, you see his whole village and you're like almost living there with them. So there's a whole chapter with his family. And then we go to the comics in the city, and all the visuals you're seeing that whole time is city life, he refers it to India's the first world half of India. And then after you get used to that, we just jump back to the village.
Yeah, that's right.
And show like, oh yeah, damn, it's a very stark difference to recall where he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's you know, in this materialistic world we live in, the West, it's fascinating to see the father in this very modest circumstances, but nice. You know, being just very articulate and sensitive and all this sort of thing. I mean, it's sort of outside my comfort zone.
Right.
You know, ironic or whatever. You know, but it's nice. I thought it made the film very compelling. That whole
Absolutely.
part of it.
One of the biggest things that Manjeet wanted from the film was to like show and just shed light on the experience that him and his family goes through, and specifically the range of emotions that they have. Because traditionally, when we're doing research on like untouchable documentaries, it always shows them in the most sad, deplorable like states of, oh, look at how bad these people have it. They're so sad, they're hungry, all this stuff. A lot of BBC documentaries frame it in that way, almost like it's poverty porn, like look at how bad these people have it. And then Manjeet is coming from the perspective of like, hell no, like we're actually dope, we're really cool, we have a whole range of expressions, you know, much more intelligent than people would assume based on the stereotypes and stuff like that. So showing his family with that range of emotions, his mom talking a whole different, about her pride, her, you know, fears of her son going away, and all that stuff was
nice.
something we really like, we're trying to showcase.
That was nice. So we didn't stick around for the questions, right?
Well, we did stick around for some of them.
Did we?
Beginning, yes.
So what questions do you get the most, or comments the most? Any things stand out?
I always get asked about like, what's this white guy from America doing, like in rural India, telling this story?
That's right.
That's a question I get a lot.
Makes it interesting, though.
Yeah.
So what's your answer?
Well, at first I was hesitant to take the project on because I was like, this isn't really my story to tell. But then, you know, through hearing what he was explaining his concept was, I figured, let me turn my ignorance into from a weakness to a superpower, and be like, okay, if I can live with him, learn about this, and then help him tell it in a way that international audiences can follow and understand. So my whole mindset when I was making this is, how can I have it so that my mom or my dad can watch this film and understand? Or how, you know, people in my own community can see it and follow what's going on. So as co-directors, his direction was making sure that his story was told accurately, factually, and that we're including every aspect of it. And my role in directing was, we're gonna tell it in an order that will let some outsiders understand.
So when is this going to be available on the internet to watch?
So likely early next year. Okay. The timeline is rough. We have to send it through film festivals now. So all these screenings have technically been like pre-screenings, and now we're going to be sending it to film festivals, the final polished version of itself.
Tweaked based on the...
Are you still editing it?
No, I'm done now. Right now, we're getting it sent. The color grader is returning it to us. The sound mixer is returning it. So it's done. People are just kind of polishing the end product to make it more presentable to festivals and like streaming services and that kind of thing.
Well, it's a wonderful thing to have on your resume, that's for sure. India, you know, film like this, it's not your basic, you know, problems of Albany, New York, and, you know, how are we gonna, you know, protest something. So it was a golden opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Clearly. I mean, obviously this is why you did it.
Yeah. It was like the perfect layup. He was looking for someone like I said, we both enjoy hip hop a lot. And he's looking at his own story very much as a hip hop rags to riches kind of a story. So when he found me, most of my work prior to this had been in music videos, rap music videos specifically. Yeah. So the angle that he wanted was the angle that I'm used to shooting, and I'm sure you saw a lot. There was a lot of Indian rap throughout, in that kind of like, you know, making him look really cool, because he is cool. But I did help make him look cool.
So tell me, does he perform in his native language also?
So currently, no, it's mostly English and Hindi. or Hinglish because they go.
Oh yeah,
they
Hindi.
kinda-
Well, that's what I meant to say. Hindi. Does he?
Yeah, yeah. So he actually had to learn Hindi once he was in college, or yeah, I think college. But he speaks Bengali, Odia, which is like a local to his region language. He speaks like 5 now. I'm pretty sure 4 or 5 languages he speaks, and each time he has to learn to break into the next level. So he learned Hindi so that he could tour across India. And then he realized that he doesn't really get paid for those kind of shows. So then he learned English on top of that. And now his latest special he just dropped is significantly English. It's mostly English. There's still some Hindi in it, but
That's
And-
the English. That's the language that links all those different languages. Everybody learns English. It's like everywhere.
yeah. So that lets him hit a global
Yeah.
audience.
But his cast does not learn English unless they go to university, right?
Yeah. So yeah, in his village, very like they spoke English because they all had internet access and stuff. So media from the U.S. and from Europe and things helped them learn some, but
Pronounce the words.
yeah, exactly. So now that me and his family are a lot more comfortable with each other, they're a lot better at English than they let on to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same way that like I'm learning some Hindi, but I get nervous to actually speak it, because like you're new, you don't want to mess up anything like that. But
So, do you have an agent now? Do you have somebody that represents you to sort of find opportunities, or?
no, I would love one though if anybody is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not currently.
Well, a friend of mine came from India. I think he was born in the U.S., but his parents are Indian and everything. So I was explaining to him about the movie, and he was very anxious to see it. And he knew a lot about the Indian culture through his parents, even though I don't think he's ever been Indian more than for a week or something. But he really picked up on it, because a lot of us, all we know is Sanjit Ray, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing, which is sort of a feel-good. Remember Sanjit Ray? He was like #1 in India he was a director, right?
Yep.
Not a writer or anything.
So from what I understand, directors find agents or managers. Producers do not. So you need to find somebody who manage your directing capabilities.
Yeah, I want to do another documentary now. That like really, I wasn't sure that genre was gonna be what I wanted to do, but now I'm like, I really am fully into it. My next project, I want to go to South Africa and do a film on the Durban reggae scene. I met a lot of Rastafarians when I was there in 2023. I was there for like a music conference, so I met a ton of musicians and I interviewed them already. So seeing that content and then seeing what I just did with this documentary, I really would like to go back there and do another one.
That's on Cape St. Francis, right? Durban?
Yeah.
Remember the movie The Perfect Wave?
Uh-huh.
That's where it was filmed, Durban.
Really?
Right off Durban. So when things get a little slow, go out there.
That's a good idea.
So what are you doing to make that happen?
So first things first, I'm gonna make a what's it called? Like a reel. I forget the name specifically, but it's like a 5 to 10 minute example of all the types of topics we're gonna touch, who we're gonna be meeting, what the topic is, and then
So
I'll
it's
use
like
that.
it's like a treatment in a script.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And funny enough, when I went and shot all this, I didn't realize that was what I was doing until now, and I was like, oh yeah, I have all this footage already. I have interviews. I actually have a lot of content on it already, so I'll make that into something to like kind of pitch.
Well, there was a wonderful documentary about Tito Fuentes. You remember him, the Cuban
Oh yeah.
musician? And the guy, I can't remember this too well, but the guy went to Havana to interview him, and the documentary ended up in a whole different place as he went along. He hadn't planned it was going to be a just straight thing on Tito Fuentes, but because of the people he interviewed, he said, hey, there's more to this in terms of not political with a capital P, but things that are going on. And so he moved. So it became a big success. Because Tito Fuentes, I think he comes from Cuba, but I think he lived in New York or something. And maybe, I don't know, but it's always a journey, isn't it? I mean, when you started out with your guy in India, I mean, did you know exactly where it was going to go, or pretty much, or totally surprised?
Yeah, even he himself was surprised at where it ended up going. That's the beauty of documentaries, I think, is that they breathe and develop outside of yourself. Like if we were making a narrative film, we would be much more intentional about a specific story we're trying to tell. I feel like with documentaries, it's beautiful because the stories are already out there. Like the whole world is a web of stories and the threads are running through everybody constantly. So to find the different threads and decide which ones to tell and which ones to follow, because like you said about Tito Fuentes, it ended up being, he thought it was just going to be on him. And then he started pulling the threads of his identity and realizing, oh, they're connected to this and this and that. And
that's what well said.
Yeah, to really expand on that. So with Manjeet and the Untouchable documentary, it was really a process of that and figuring out which threads are we gonna follow, which threads make sense. And that's where my foreignness came in to help, because something he might take for granted as common knowledge, us over here would have no idea anything about. So me being there to say, no, we have to keep this in, because without this part, people aren't gonna understand next segment or this next joke.
Well, yeah, when you do documentaries, the audio track is obviously crucial, but the use of music is very, I mean, Empire of the Sun, remember that song? An Empire of the Sun, that's famous, about the mother and the child. I sing it, but I can't. But there's nothing like a key moment in a documentary, and suddenly this music begins to creep in, and it gets you emotionally. But you have to sort of, obviously, the filmmaker has to set it up, so that key moment when the music starts moving in the close-up to the face, and when the character realizes something. I love those,
Yeah, playing with music, like if I was good at music myself, I would not be doing film, I'd be doing music. But I'm not good at music, so film is my art that I have. Yeah. But utilizing the music in the film was my favorite part personally. And especially, I really like not having music where you think music should be. So his best friend told that story about when they got beat by police and thrown in jail. Afterwards, you see a clip of them laughing with each other and high-fiving each other, and it's dead silent.
That was great. Yeah,
the audience doesn't know how to feel, because music informs your emotions a lot of the time. And when his best friend is telling the story, he's laughing about it now because it happened years back, and it's absurd to tell it now because it sounds crazy. That's they weren't breaking any laws or anything. The cop just didn't like the way that they didn't stand up when they spoke to him. Essentially, the cop felt disrespected, and so he beat him black and blue. So then, as an audience member, you're hearing this, and you're like, "That's a horrifying thing to have to go through," and they're laughing about it.
Like
and now
they're high-fiving. Frat boys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jesus.
So then
that was amazing.
They laugh and high five, and it's dead silent. The audience is now sitting in like am I supposed to be laughing? Am I supposed to be horrified? Like, what am I supposed to be feeling now?
There's more to this story.
Exactly. So
but you're saying read between the lines.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And
make your own conclusion.
Exactly.
Rather than spelling it out relentlessly.
I don't want to give you an out through the music to tell you, okay, I should be feeling sad right now, or I should be feeling empowered right now, or anything. Just sit with it. Yeah. And then I feel like that hits you harder.
Well, it's like editing text when you write. I mean, just one word too many. It's, or two words too many. The mind sort of softens. It's not on the edge anymore. I mean, it's like that classic editing thing in the Rockport. This is an editing school. I mean, film, text editing, there's a shack on a pier in Rockport, which is, a big fishing thing. And above the shack it says, fresh fish sold here daily, right? Well, so you get your editing pencil out. Well, of course, you don't need fresh. If fish was sold not fresh, I mean, everybody knows it's fresh.
Yeah.
Here, well, of course it's here. I mean, where else is it? daily? Well, obviously, you open every day. So it's just fish, you know? Someone told me that years ago. I was stuck with me when I have to edit my own stuff. I said, too many words. Does he really need to know that? But I think that's what you did in that thing there. You got it down so the imagery and the context would force the viewer to, not force it, but, you know, sort of enjoy speculating on what really happened without being laboriously told. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that leaves also the timing when the music does come in. The music can hit extra hard if it hasn't been there, or and a lot of times you'll notice we have it just kind of punch in some more aggressive rap song or something like that. So it's really fun to build the roller coaster ride for people, and that's what I think we were trying to do, is keep it. There's a lot of serious topics in there, and like some really horrific stuff that has happened to people, like his grandma fled genocide, all that type of stuff. But we don't want people to leave, like I said earlier, feeling like, oh, these poor people, like that's awful, we should feel so bad for them. You know, it's more of like a going through and balancing, like, this is because it's also a comedy documentary. He's telling stand-up jokes, so we can't get ever too sad with it, but because of the content we can't ever get too happy with it. So riding that line of like, okay, we're gonna go sad to happy was really fun to do. That was the challenge of the film, but like it was a blast to kind of be the architect of that roller coaster.
Plus, you're in a setting that's far away from Canton, Massachusetts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that certainly makes it more sensitive, much more alert. You're not thinking about Karen Reid or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we digress. Anyhow, yeah. So no, I was fascinated. Because like I say, all the movies I knew about India were the Sanjit Ray Bollywood types of things, which are, you know, successful commercial deals. But
that was one of the first movies that Manjeet showed me to get a frame of reference for his background was Pantar Pachali by Satyajit Ray, which is like a poor rural family just living in the jungle basically with some in a small community. But he told me, like, when I see this film, I see my own childhood and life kind of portrayed back in the day. So yeah, Satyajit Ray is like a legend filmmaker.
I told you that story about up in the Himalayas, the one where do you remember when I said that in one of the earlier shows? Is I think this father is trying to get his daughter to marry his business partner, who's about 40 years older, or to call it 20 years. So they're going through the tea gardens in the Himalayas, which are beautiful, and there's Mount Everest and all this stuff, you know, which is, the setting is correct. So lo and behold, they run into this handsome young guy about her age who's bringing his grandfather up to the tea gardens for the last time because the grandfather's about to die. So that gets you a little bit right like that. So, you know, Sanjay, so he moves it along and, you know, all this stuff. And then in the end, the two youngsters get together, you know. But the imagery I got it was that, you know, if you told that story on the Red Line somehow in Boston and meeting up, you know, it wouldn't fly. But because it's the setting of India and the mountains and the tea gardens, so the setting is sort of crucial to when you create your interviews and your plots. Like when the father was sitting in the village, you know, talking like a guy you'd like to know. You know, it was very, very compelling.
Yeah, thank you. That was important, and that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about when we switched to the comedians in the city. It's very strictly just city shots, and you see the nice cars, the nice buildings, all of those types of settings. That's a lot of the people who are going to watch this movie in India would be in the city and stuff. So to kind of put them in that mindset of familiarity, and then have Manjeet be like, well, this is, you know, I'm talking about my cast because this is the most important aspect of my life. This is my identity. And then we jump back to the village, and it's really like, whoa, like to see that Stark jump back to that setting and remind everybody, like, this is where he came from. Like, this might be where he is now, but this part of him is a huge part of his identity. So having those settings balance out was really important.
Yeah, you got to really think about where you're going to set the interview and everything.
Exactly.
It seems like, yeah. So I told Ed McDonough asked me about my opinions. You know, like note where they have, as I've learned, they have something they call notes, right? That if you go, if you're invited by a director or someone to a screening to see, what you do is you write a note, right? I mean, you just get a piece of paper when you go in and you sign and you say this. So my note to you was that I noticed when you introduced the film, you're addressing the issue of the F-bombs.
Yeah.
And you're saying if we don't offend people or whatever. And my note, I told Ed, was you didn't really need that. That it's just the way it is today in this world, you know? I mean, everybody knows that it was a bit of a, sort of a parent-child type comment, you know? You know, don't be offended, you know? I mean, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
But obviously you thought it through, and where you came out was where you came out, which is, you know.
Yeah, I do like the disclaimer. The disclaimer is a lot for upper caste Indian people.
Okay, I get you.
Specifically,
Yeah.
to be like, because they get talked about a lot in the film.
Yeah.
And then also the first like 5 minutes of the film are his phone call with his grandmother, and she's talking about why she came to India. The Pakistani army was committing genocide in East Pakistan, now it's Bangladesh. But the beginning is all black and white and all these things. And part of why we did that was because we wanted the beginning to feel like a traditional, oh, so sad, these people kind of a film.
No F-bombs are coming out from her.
Not yet, not exactly, yeah. Not the grandma.
So it's settled in for the long run.
Yes, so the disclaimer way at the beginning where we say, you know, don't get offended, and if you do, you still have the option to kindly F off. That comes so early because it lets you know what kind of movie you can expect to watch. It's serious, but there's gonna be jokes. So then when we move into the opening is very serious conversation. That energy, that kind of feeling you just had is still gonna be with you while we go through kind of some hard topics right at the beginning before we hit his stand up and really get the doc moving.
But the F-bombs only came when he was performing.
Yeah.
There was no other place. All the interviews and stuff like that. I don't really recall it. So.
I don't. If any interviews, it was interviews of him that dropped it. But it was definitely mostly during his stand up.
And I noticed that in the filming, was he at the screening?
Yep. Yeah, he was there.
His complexion seemed a lot darker than in the film. You know, a lot. Was I just imagining that, or?
I'm not sure. We were in the room that we were in was very red. The chairs, the walls, the ceiling, everything was red, and it was dim lighting. So the red, because skin tones are red, so that might have been like a.
Because I did wonder. I said, you know, A, am I remembering it correctly, of course, but B, I said, well, maybe they changed the coloring in the movie so that he was a little more mainstream. Is that unfair?
No, it was more that he's in the film. He's in like sunlight. He's on a stage with the bright lights, and then in the theater it was just a lot darker, a lot more reds around us. Yeah.
So tell us, what's Manjeet doing now?
Great question. So he is now back in India, and now he has two projects that he's working on now. One is his next stand-up tour in India, so he's writing his next special. And then he's also starting a show called Manjeet Ki Baat, which he is essentially, it's kind of like The Daily Show, where it's like political news commentary, but all comedians, all jokes. It's not too serious, but he has a couple shows in Bangalore coming up that he's gonna film the first like test runs at, and then he's gonna take it to like Mumbai, Delhi, and film those there. So
is he going to incorporate other comics?
Yep. So each episode is gonna have, it's gonna, similar to the Daily Show, he'll have like a set group with him of comics, and then each episode he'll have a guest comic or celebrity or something to come on and play games. Like one game they have is guess the real headline or the fake headline. So they'll post 2 real headlines from India and then a third fake one. And the point being, all of them are so absurd that it's like, which one could be fake now? So that's what he's working on to get some funding for that and start that show up.
So how many, what's the exposure for that show? How many, is it on mainstream television?
No, it's very early right now. He came up with the idea just a few months back. So he's just doing some test pilots now, and then he'll try and get some funders for it or see if he can fund it himself.
Well, that sounds really fun and interesting, and certainly something that people would want to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's so attractive. Yeah.
Have was he in on any of our interviews?
Yeah, he was in our second interview. I was in India at the time. It was the Zoom call.
Yeah.
The 2 of us were out there.
Yeah.
Priscilla, we don't have much time left.
No, we have about 3 minutes, and so tell me, besides the Reggae and South Africa project, do you have any other ones in mind?
Yeah, so it's like the exact opposite. So I want to go to South Africa in the warm, like the warm season and do reggae music. And then the other one that I'm thinking about is Iditarod race in Alaska, which is like cold, dark winter time, you know. So between those 2, I was definitely leaning towards reggae in South Africa.
Well, you can do the run-up to, you got in the summer when they're all practicing. So it's not totally terrible.
I definitely would, my idea would be to go for like one full season cycle to see what they're doing with the dogs in the summertime leading up to the races. There's like qualifying races that they have to go through too. But I went up there last summer with my family, and we met some racers and like some sled dogs, and that whole, hearing the kid talk about it was really intriguing. So I think that would be a really cool project to do as well.
Well, it's great. What they were, Iditarod started because they were saving Noone. They had a epidemic or something, and they brought in the vaccinations for the sled dogs because the airplanes couldn't get in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so
we're going to segue into the videos that I took at the premiere at the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline in the month of May. So take it away. And Mike, before we do that, many, many thanks once more for your appearing with Bill and me and sharing your wonderful stories. Good luck in the future.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you both so much for having me. It's a pleasure every time.
Hi, this is Priscilla Almquist Olsen for Film Connection, reporting at the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline, Massachusetts, for a very important and impressive event that's going to happen. And today we have a whole bunch of friends of Mike Noone. Mike Noone, we've interviewed him on Film Connection 3 times, and we are here for his big premiere of the movie that he directed and produced in India, a documentary about a stand-up comic named Majit Sarkar. And Majit is a stand-up comic who makes jokes about his caste, his untouchable caste that he's a member of. And we all know that's the lowest caste in India. Those castes are now outlawed, but the prejudice still exists. Mike, welcome, and this is a big moment for you. Tell me how you feel tonight.
I feel so excited and nervous. You know, I see so much of my family even walking in as we speak, so many people are coming. I've been working on this for months and months. To think that it's all coming down to one night is a lot, but I'm so excited.
Have a massive success from his community. This is also his first time in America, so let's give him a hand for that. Hopefully he comes back. And as for Mike, I know there's a lot of people who know Mike here tonight. Right off the bat, we know he's a good guy. But if you don't know Mike, Mike's an internationally awarded director and photographer who's traveled to over 20 countries across 5 continents, Mr. Worldwide, He's received awards and recognition for his directing in Los Angeles, Ireland, Paris, India, South Africa, and more. And he's the co-director, along with Manjeet, and the cinematographer and editor of his first feature-length documentary, Untouchable Laughing Outcast. And if you're from Canton High here tonight, you might remember Mike because he directed the short documentary One Shift, the Maddie Marconi story. So let's go, Mike.
Hi guys, first of all, thank you so much for coming out. I know half of you are here because of the homeboy Mike. But whatever fan, whoever came here for the Manjeet Sarkar. Alright. Thank you to you too. But first of all, I'm sorry for all the people here for the F word. I'm sorry, I learned English through rap music. I'm really sorry. So I later realized this is something, but I learned English quite late, and this is the first time I came to India. You can't believe the first place I went to America is Texas, by the way. So I'm well prepared. Yeah, I did cover a research about you guys though. I'll just start off with that. I did know that normally Americans are really scared of getting called as racist. Yeah, and Canadians are scared of getting called as Americans. So those are the small things I know is in context, and also we'll talk about it. Give it to your boy Mikey. I couldn't, yes, please. Couldn't have made the film without him. I am staying with him. His family has been wonderful host. Mom known, dad known, everyone is the amazing and best people I have met so far. Yeah, thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, yeah, this is just such a special night for me. We did this in about a year. This finished in December, and we did this on a 10-year-old MacBook Pro in Final Cut as well. So we were grinding, late nights, long render times, all that. So to have all that work come down to this one evening is like really, really special for me. I love seeing so many friendly faces in the crowd. You know, people came out from all over. So I'm just really touched and happy that you guys got to finally see this.
All right, so there's a lot that we want to get to on the Q&A here. Let's start things on a light note, and this can go out to both you, Manjeet and Mike. Could you describe what was your favorite part of the filmmaking process, from pre-production all the way through to maybe even tonight?
For me, I think I wanted to make a film about comedy initially because in India, comedy is relatively a very new art form and very expensive one. To watch it also, to perceive it also, right? So whenever I had to learn comedy, I only had access to American comedy or like American documentaries related to comedy, right? So I wanted to make something where 30 years, 40 years down the line, when some new comedian, aspiring comedian wanted to watch how comedy was before, he would refer back to my documentary. But initially when I started talking about Cast 2, I was like, this is a really nice place where I could actually talk about something that nobody has did it before, because so far whoever did talk about Cast is mostly about BBC documentaries kind of things, which mostly people are not Dalit themselves, and it's like some sad shit. You know, so, oh my god, look at these Dalit people, so sad and all. I just wanted to say that we're cool. We're dope, we're cool, we have other emotions too other than you showing us sad and all. So I wanted to make a documentary about two things that mattered the most to me, comedy and my identity. And then I met Mike.
Yeah, so my favorite part of this, my favorite part shooting it was definitely staying with Manjeet's family. So he's with mine now. I stayed with his when we visited the village. So much fun, such loving people. They don't speak any English, I don't speak any Bengali, but we made it work. Actually, his dad would speak to me in very slow, pronounced Hindi, which I also don't speak. It's very nice. But I love them. They'll FaceTime me, they'll talk to me, the full paragraphs, and I'll just say like, I don't know what you're saying. They laugh, they like it. But this film really pushed
Like, this was difficult. This is very difficult. There's 4 languages, I think, in total. 5 languages in the film. So to edit that all into like a cohesive story in a way that is deliverable to non-Indian audiences specifically as well was really difficult to do. That, like, growing from that, I think is the best part of this documentary for me. Like, I feel like I can do any documentary now.
I got one story about Mike coming to my village, by the way. This is the first time my entire just district, whole area, and like some 300 miles radius, they have ever seen a white person. So they were curious. They were like staring at him, not even smiling back. Mike was trying to smile, and they were like, "No, what are you? Why do you look like that?" I literally heard one of the like friend of mine and next to my house, and he's spoke in his tribal language, and that literally translated to this: "Oh, they're back."
Oh my God, I love it. You both kind of touched on it there for a second, but this maybe is more for you, Manjeet, but can you describe what it was like to work with Mike on such an intimate level, with him meeting your family in your hometown? What was that like for you, that experience? Was that a hard process for you, or?
I think I've never seen someone by far, like, now the kind of relationship I developed, like, I call him my best friend. Like, it is beyond cultural things that we share. We have a lot of similar interests. We think alike. Like, lot of in the movie, there was a lot of places where when I was not even there, he took decision on behalf of me, and he knew I would be okay with that, because those kind of think alike we share, basically, right? So when he went to village, and Mike is someone who has traveled so much around the world, it was the easiest thing for me, because he got along with everyone. Like, entire village wanted to make him feel special, I guess, because he wanted to see a cow, and they did not let the cow go so that Mike can pet him. But it was amazing. Everybody loved him around it. And it's easy to be with Mike because he's very adjustable, which is normally I don't see people doing it from my country as well, you know. So props to him for doing that.
And like, how about for you? Manjeet mentioned you're pretty well traveled. You've been all around the world, but this must have been a little bit out of your comfort zone. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, working with Manjeet was actually awful. Like, I hated this guy. No, it was great. It was beautiful, the reception that I got from his family, friends too. Like he said, like, we're best friends now. We are tight. We are planning to do future projects together. So it really couldn't have worked out better. I said I had gone in January. We hadn't connected until like November of the previous year. So it was very fast. Like, hey, do you think you can come out here? Absolutely, yes. Like, an opportunity to do something like that, I couldn't pass that up. But me and Manjeet, like he said, have very similar mindsets when it comes to creativity, especially. So anytime I would get stuck on something, I would bring him over, and within 2 seconds he'd be like, "Oh, let's do this. And so I'm like, perfect. And vice versa. He doesn't know what has to happen here, then usually I have a good idea of what could go there. So together, we just kind of workshop this film. Every time we've shown this film, it's gone through iterations as well. Like, we're watching the audience, how they're responding, if they're not laughing at a certain joke, that kind of thing. The end where he's in front of the city, we shot that in Vancouver, where we were screening this. So we were producing it as we were touring it, which added some stress as well. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just, to see it at this point now is really special.
And here we have Michael's father, John Noone Sr.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. You must be so proud of Mike tonight.
Extremely. Yeah, it's great to see him so excited about it.
Yeah. And you have nurtured both your sons, Mike and his other brother.
I have 3 sons and 1 daughter.
I see. Oh my goodness.
Michael's the oldest.
Mike's the oldest, yes. And they're all interested in film, aren't they?
Yeah, a little bit. Michael's been making movies since he was 12 years old.
Wow.
So it's pretty exciting. And Joe, his youngest brother, is over there helping him, but he was a little actor back when he was young. So
I see.
that was always fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he put it all on YouTube, and some of them were very funny.
So what do you think about a 23-year-old kid making a movie and being so successful at a young age?
It's pretty cool. It really is. I mean, he's passionate about it. Yeah, it's awesome.
And now here we have Ed McDonough, the legendary media teacher and coach that's produced all of these wonderful people in the film industry over many years. Just retired, and everybody misses him, but he's a well-deserved retirement. And you're here tonight because Mike was one of your students, and you're so proud of him. So tell me, how do you feel tonight?
Oh, it's just amazing. Joey's Mike's brother is collecting tickets tonight. Joey used to be in all of Mike's early films. I remember being out in Northridge, California, visiting him at his college out there, and he had a film that was at the Hollywood Docks. He did as a high school student that got an award out there. Always knew Mike was a gifted storyteller, and I'm just so honored to see this piece that is really a wonderful piece of social commentary where together with the filmmaker and Jeet, they're going to change perceptions of the Dalit or untouchable caste, and that's the name of the film, Untouchable Laughing Outcast. So using comedy, changing perceptions of centuries of bias.
Right. And so you must be so proud of him, and what do you think his future is going to be?
Nothing holding him back. Anything he wants to achieve doors will open, and he has the unique ability to network and meet people and leverage experiences as this opportunity came across.
And of course,
and it'll only grow.
And in the film business, relationships are really the most important part of advancing your career. Don't you agree?
Not only in film and anything. And Mike was the class president of his class. So he had that networking understanding at an early age.
Yeah.
And really has played that to the max. But you can have that skill, but to have the substance to back it up, that's a rarity, and he has both.
That's great. And now we have Walter Noone, who is Mike Noone's grandfather. And Mike, you're here, and how do you feel tonight about your grandson?
Well, I'm very, very proud of him. He's always been in films since he was a kid, a young teenager. He was making home movies.
How do you feel tonight?
I feel really good, actually. I'm really proud of Mike. He's put a lot of work into this film, and I'm super excited I've already seen how it comes out, actually.
Thank you.